Okay, this is my 10 by 16 gambrel chicken goat barn. I have several things that I've done in here that I think help save space for chickens and goats and can help house them together and live happily together. One of the things I'm particularly proud of that's worked really well for us is the chickens are in this corner of the barn right here, and we needed a wall. And so I made the laying box as part of the wall, and there's a shelf to store things on top. But what this laying box is I can pull this piece of plywood off, and there's 3 different levels. A typical laying box is approximately a foot by a foot. So these shelves are each a foot high, and then on the bottom they're divided up into individual feet, and there's holes where the chickens come in on the other side. This side is more of a laying tunnel. The hole is clear back on this side. The chickens jump up a foot, get in there, and then they could, if you can see, it's blocked off all the way back, and they tend to come to the far end of the tunnel and lay their eggs. You can see it there. And then the 3rd level, they jump up a couple feet. There's a bar for them to jump on. They come in and they walk down the end and they lay the eggs here. And so this works really well. I have a storage shelf, a wall, and a laying booth, or a laying box, all in one. This is the other side. This is where the chickens are actually living. This is what they see. Down on the bottom, there's walls separating these foot by foot boxes, a half dome, a circle, and a rectangle. The chickens go in there and lay. They use all those boxes. You go up a foot, and that's the hole I talked about where they jump in and they walk down the tunnel, and most of them lay down here at this end. And then there's the roosting bar for them to jump up on, or the landing bar. They climb in there, and they tend to work their way across and lay the eggs here. Okay, another thing that works really well for me is my chicken feeder. I have 4-inch drain pipe that I used here. There's about 3 feet on it, and I put a T-joint and then the 45-degree angles on here on either side. So I can put a whole bunch of feed in the top of here. It does not spill out. The chickens can easily stick their head in either side and eat out of there. It's an excellent feeder. Another thing that I just added this year and I really like, I bought the watering nipples for the chickens. I have a whole nother video that I did on that so that you can look, but you can buy these inexpensively. They don't, you put it in a bucket with a lid on it, they don't get waste in it, they don't spill it. The watering nipples on a big bucket, fantastic way to go. The chickens have plenty of roosting bars up here. They are a foot away from the wall. They roost, they can figure out where they want to go. But the chickens come through the goat barn, and then to get in here they have to go through the goat barn, and then they come through this small hole that I have right here. I have 2 by 4 inch no climb fences, and I cut out a square. You could see that I put a dowel in the middle of this because even this tiny hole, which is about a foot by 6 inches, the Nigerian dwarf goats will come right on through and try to get the chicken feed. So I had to make it even smaller. It's amazing what goats can get through if they want to get to chicken feed. Okay, one of the other things I've done to protect the chickens is, most of you know, if you have chickens, predators show up. Raccoons, possums, and everything else wants to get them. One of the reasons my chickens are safer is the goats sleep right in front of this little hole that the chickens are coming through, and that deters a lot of predators. The other thing that I've done is I built this chute right around there, and I put a stand to hold my live trap, and it fits perfectly inside the chute. So if I ever get to a situation where predators start coming in again, they absolutely can't get in here without getting in the live trap. Okay, goats are notorious hay wasters. People talk about it all the time. They put hay out, the goats eat some hay, it falls on the ground, and then they won't eat it. And they're like, I thought goats eat everything. I've angled out some 2x material, and I have the 2x4 no climb fencing again. And I have a space there, I just shove hay in here. The goats can stick their noses through there and pull out small amounts at a time. And I found they eat a significantly more amount of hay and not waste it when they have to pull it through this fence slowly and eat it. I have more of that on the outside of the barn here too. Okay, we're just now outside the barn. I have a shed roof right here. This is where I do most of my feeding. Again, I have the 2x4 no climb fencing where I could put hay all the way along here, so 15 different goats can get in here and start feeding. Another thing I've done is made this trough for grain. I have more of the 4-inch pipe. This supports it and holds it. I could just drop this in. I pour my grain. I put some goat mineral in there in the morning, and they can eat that out. Invariably, the goats turn around and poop in this trough, pee in it. They get up and walk on it. That's just what goats do. So I didn't screw this down. I can pull this out. I have another one on the other side of the barn that's already cleaned. I can bring it in, drop it in, fill up the trough, and do it again, and I can keep cleaning it out this way. Another nutrient that the goats need is baking soda, and it helps prevent bloat. And so I wanted to have it out here so the goats can get it whenever they want. So I had just another pipe laying around the farm, put another angle on it, and I bring a bag and throw baking soda in here, and they lick it out of here when they want it, and I just put more in. My water trough outside is only about 8 inches tall, but it's nice and wide. It can hold plenty of water for a couple days for all my goats and the chickens, but my young Nigerian dwarfs and my chickens can all get in and get the water easily. So when the chickens come in to roost at night, they come in the big barn door with the rest of the animals. They come across where the goats are going to sleep, and they aim for the little hole right there into their roosting place. So most predators don't want to cross this many goats to get into their little opening. It helps protect the chickens. Okay, another thing that has worked really well for me, and I will always do as long as I have goats, is I've developed a bunk bed system here, or shelves. I originally built this shelf so that goats could get up on top of it and the pig could sleep on the ground. We don't have a pig anymore, but the goats keep getting higher and higher, and I might add some more shelves. But usually the herd buck jumps up on this shelf and up here, sleeps up here with another goat or two, and then there's usually 3, maybe 4 goats on this little shelf. And then I do have shelving on the floor that I know it looks dirty on the floor, but the goats sleep on these shelvings from Home Depot with slats in it. The poop falls through, so they're actually not laying in their own poop. I do have another shelf over here, and then this pallet that's laying on the floor. Although it's just a pallet on the floor, the goats do paw the ground and scratch it to get it clean, so they push all the poop off, and that sits on the floor around the pallet, so the pallet itself is fairly clean. The goats can sleep on that. Okay, and a lot of people talk about what bedding do you put in your goat barn? Do you use straw? Do you use wood chips and whatnot? And to be honest, a little bit of the hay that comes out turns into bedding, but I really don't use it because the goats aren't sleeping on their poop. I just let the poop go to the lowest spot. They sleep up on the higher spots, and then I could just scoop all this up with a shovel, which obviously I need to do that again right now. They're standing right now, but my goats are on their bunks, which they sleep on. Well, you see 2 of them nursing up top with their mama. That's Cannon the herd buck. He tends to sleep on the top bunk. And then we have a couple that sleep here. There's a pallet on the floor that gets brushed clean. There's another deck here. Another thing that's worked really well for me is bungee cords. Pull my doors closed. I have this door pushes open. I have a stop down here that the door pushes against and it stops. The bungee cord pulls it tight. Otherwise, I just push it open. Bungee cord pulls it back. When the goats come up and hit against it, they can't get it open, but yet it's easy to get in and out of. Oversized buckets are a beautiful thing on the farm. This particular bucket right here is a 12.5 gallon bucket. It's really large. I could take an entire feed bag, dump it inside the bucket. I've got a country buffet in here. I've got another bucket with layer pellets. You can screw the lid back on. It's a beautiful thing to have for storage. If you can get your hands on an oversized bucket, do it. A 10 by 16 barn certainly isn't the biggest barn in the world, but I had plenty of room for up to 30 chickens and 20 goats. And then up on the above, because it's a gambrel barn design, I can get 40 bales of hay up there on either end. Okay, so here's the morning routine. A couple scoops of layer pellets in the chicken bin. I get a couple scoops of grain, mix in a little bit of wet cob for the goats. A little bit of goat mineral is going to go in there also. Go out and put this in the trough. 1 scoop of layer pellets that I take outside and just fling in the pasture if it's a dry day. The chickens like to scratch it off the ground and eat it. That's their preference. Chickies! Throw that out for them. Chicken scraps. I throw our table scraps in a compost bin every morning. The chickens and the goats eat most of what they want, and the rest slowly breaks down for garden soil that we'll have later. I started this YouTube channel at the urging of some friends. Please share with anyone that might be interested. Like, subscribe, comment, any of the above would be appreciated. Thank you.